My friends, today I'd like to show you an exercise-based system that will allow you to skyrocket your guitar progress. And the most important keyword right away is system, because I personally would have never made it to a pro guitarist level if I had never introduced a system to my daily practice routines. You might be familiar with the feeling of just noodling around and having fun in your routines and not really practicing every day. It can be kind of fun, and I did that a lot as a teenager, but at the same time I was also quite frustrated about the progress I was making. So at one point I knew that I needed a system to follow, and once I implemented this system that I will show you today, it allowed me to reach a professional level in a very short amount of time. And honestly, I personally would have never made it without this structured way of practicing, and now it allows me to do some fun stuff like this. So I can finally play whatever I dream up, and it's a lot of fun. This is exactly what I want for you as well. So here's today's first exercise that will help you with getting there as fast as possible. Now this cool exercise I'd like to quickly dissect with you together is actually part of my brand new Guitar Speed Builder course that I just dropped on Patreon in my online guitar academy. So if you didn't go through the brand new full 30-day course on Patreon yet, this will serve as a great little appetizer. It's a 7-note group. So 7 notes on each string, but I'm not playing septuplets or anything crazy. I'm just playing 16th notes, but I'm playing groups of 7. And usually I do this with alternate picking, because the picking direction turns around every time when you alternate pick. So you just go down, up, and you always play groups of 7. So like this, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I alternate pick groups of 7, I start on the first string with a downstroke, but since it's an uneven group of notes, the next string I start with an upstroke, then with a downstroke again, then with an upstroke, and so on. But as you might have seen, for this one I'm using economy picking. So up, down, up, down, up, down, up. I'm starting and I'm ending with an upstroke, and the reason for that weird kind of pattern is I can actually keep this pattern for all the strings if I work with economy picking. As you can see on the next string, it's the exact same picking pattern, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And if I connect these upstrokes with a sweep picking like motion, which is what economy picking is all about, so not really picking the strings like this as I'm descending. So very small picking movement across the strings, and whenever I switch to the next string I'm just sweeping like this, so I'm not plucking the strings like this for the transitions. I'm using this very fluid sweep picking movement, and I make sure that it's really small, and when I also make sure that my fretting hand fingers are very close to the neck like this, so not moving around like that, very close like that, I get really cool results. So this was already a little bit faster, and as you can see I was still super relaxed with both my hands. I could do this all day, and that's why this is such a great exercise for building speed and technique. So this one serves as the perfect teaser for the full 30-day Guitar Speed Builder course I just dropped for my Patreon community on patreon.com/burned. It's a structured 30-day course program that comes with all the exercises you need to boost both your picking speed and fretting hand control. Those are the perfect exercises to practice every single day to finally have a structured system in your routine that gets you real results in a short amount of time. So this course is exactly what you've been looking for when it comes to improving your probably self-taught guitar technique. All you have to do is click the link down below and get started with the new course on Patreon right away. But I also want to show you some other really helpful exercises in this video. Here's the second one I have for you today. So with this one we're back to alternate picking, so strictly down, up, down, up, down, up, and so on. A lot of my students on Patreon ask me if they should either work on alternate picking or economy picking. Honestly, it really pays off to know both approaches and to have mastered both of them, because you will come up with some interesting, unique ideas. So it really pays off to master both of these awesome techniques, and this exercise will really help you with getting that alternate picking movement to finally work across all the strings. Because first you're just playing 2 groups of 3 and you're also playing triplets, so that should be relatively easy. You're playing down, up, down on the low E string, the notes C, D and E. Then the picking pattern turns around. You're playing up, down, up on the A string, the notes F, G and A. So far so good. This is a little bit tricky because you have a downstroke on the low E string as the last note. So you don't want to get stuck in between the E and A strings for that. The picking angle that will get you unstuck, so to say, is this one. So when your pick is pointing in this direction, after the downstroke, you're moving away from the strings. If it's pointing in this direction, so into the guitar, and you play a downstroke, you always get stuck in between the strings. So that's the way to go for the first string transition. So like this. And not like this. Because like that, once again, I'm stuck right here. But then as you can see below, I have just one note on the D string. I'm playing on the 9th fret for just one downstroke before I return to an upstroke on the A string. And that's what makes this one such a great string transitioning exercise. So that's one of those exercises that really gets your wrist moving and unlocked, and I really feel warmed up after just playing it a couple of times. And the next exercise I have for you today is also great for your technique. Check out how cool this one sounds like. So today's third exercise is especially great for building speed because you're working with speed bursts, which is the most effective way of pushing beyond your comfort zone and finally gaining some speed, breaking through those barriers. In case you were wondering, of course, I also made a brand new practice package for this video. So everything I talk about in this video is also on Patreon. You can download slow and fast play-along videos, the detailed tabs, guitar profiles, and even some backing tracks with and without my guitar for all the exercises I'm showing in this video. I make videos like this every single week in my Patreon Guitar Academy, so it really pays off to finally become a member over there so that you get access to all those helpful practice files, because just watching these videos is one thing, actually practicing them and working with the files I make for you every single week is a completely different story, because I'm proud to say I could help over 40,000 guitar students with the exercises I post on Patreon. Now is the perfect time to start. Just click the link down below because I also want to help you with reaching your full potential on the guitar. And this exercise is actually a great start when it comes to speed. Let me show you why. I focus on keeping my wrist loose and unlocked, and I just work on one quick speed burst, just like this. That's the first pattern I want to focus on. So I start with a downstroke on the G string, and I also end with a downstroke on the G string, but the notes in between are on the D string, and this is something a lot of players are struggling with. So playing a note on a higher string, then returning for some shredding to a lower string, and then getting to that higher string again. And for the second pattern, I'm doing something different. When I zoom in a little bit on the picking hand, I have to do this for the D string, then flip for the G string and get back to the D string like this. So once again, D string, G string, escape movement, and back to the D string. And when you practice this, I really want you to push beyond your comfort zone. So please don't be afraid to sound like this when you start. I know that we always want to sound perfect, but it really helps to push beyond what you can do and to try to get it right. Because after a couple of weeks of practicing this correctly and focusing on the picking angles, it will sound like that. Alright, now I got two more quick exercises I want to show you. Exercise number 4 is once again great for picking control and speed, but now we're closing the gaps in between the speed bursts, so they're getting closer together, which turns this one into a pretty cool endurance exercise. Check it out. So the goal with this one is once again building speed and connecting the hands, so really synchronizing them. So you start on the high E string with down, then up, down, up for the B string, and one last downstroke on the B string right here, and then the pattern repeats for the other strings. Notice that staccato notation on the 8th notes, so I make sure that those are abrupt, so they're not ringing out. It's kind of just a quick accent, which makes this sound really cool. You will notice that when you play through the entire exercise, it really warms up both your hands, because it's not just a quick speed burst, then a rest, then another speed burst. So going from the previous exercise into this one is a great idea to build more endurance. So this one's fun and really practical because you're not just working with different note durations. So you're starting out with 16th notes and then moving to 8th note triplets, as you can see in the transcription. So I'm not just switching between 16th notes and 8th note triplets here, I'm also switching between two different playing approaches. The first notes I played with alternate picking, so down, up, but then there's just one picking stroke and I'm pulling off the notes. So that makes this exercise very practical because I love combining picking and legato phrases in my guitar solos and improvised takes. So working on this exercise is a great way of improving your timing when it comes to different note groupings, but also your musicality because it will train you to switch between picking and legato. And the full phrase is kind of a brain teaser because you're playing 4 16th notes, then 6 8th note triplets, and then you go into 4 16th notes to end the phrase. So that's very hard to do because when you do this for the first time, you will certainly rush with the 8th note triplets because you have to really take a step back to still play in time. It's the most practical one of today, so please make sure to definitely also include this one in your practice routines. All right, my friend, those are all the exercises I wanted to go through today because they allow for a great systematic approach of getting better at guitar. You can download the brand new exercise package of all these exercises I talked about in this video on Patreon right now by clicking the link down below, patreon.com/bernd. And remember that I also just posted a brand new 30-day guitar course over there. So right now is the perfect time to join to get the absolute most out of your membership. Click the link, patreon.com/bernd. Talk to you over there. Have an awesome day. Greetings from LA and bye-bye.